I guess in my mind, if we're leasing it, we don't physically own it, but we do have a right to, I guess, maybe control, a little more control over what goes on in that building, and maybe it could be something that, yeah, the hospital needs to, part of that, I don't know. Yeah, they're one of our worst vendors though. The ambulance crew is great. I don't usually even know that they're in there, but it's when the hospital board has meetings and whatnot during the day where we have problems.
Mm.
Okay.
With the $15 fee, I would suggest, I'm looking at your email on the scenarios,
Mm-hmm.
I would suggest that at least $5 go to you guys for scheduling meetings, double checking that it's cleaned up, putting this together, this contract together, and then $10 to pay for heating, water, fees, all that good stuff.
I think
If
that's
that's
fair, and I think
agreeable.
that's what Mike had suggested at one point too. so-
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, that's all my comments, I'm good with it. I think this is, well done.
And I do like your idea of a checklist. There's kind of a checklist in the room. I don't know anyone who probably actually reads it, but it's behind the door next to the light switch. But I think it is a good idea to maybe make that a little more visible and put it like on the back page or something so that and we can make it even bigger in the room too and update it if it needs to
On
be
the
updated.
application form, have it
Yeah, we could have it on here.
on the back of that or something.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. I
Yeah.
do like that. Yeah.
And you know what we could do is send a letter to the hospital,
Mm-hmm.
whichever board it is, and include, hey, this is what we're doing, here's the checklist. Obviously, because it's your building, we're not gonna charge you deposit or rental fee. But if you could review the checklist and just make sure that you comply with this, that'd be great.
Mm-hmm.
Again, just a friendly reminder.
Yeah.
And what I would bet is, the person who books the meeting is the first one gone, and those who are left don't quite get it all done.
Yeah, and I think that's probably in many cases, some cases, what happens, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the birthday party that we had problems with a couple weeks ago, when I brought this up again, they did finally come in. Again, we left them several messages in order to get them there. They did take care of some of it, but they never cleaned the bathroom, and someone had peed all over the floor. So Tammy called Debbie, and she came over and cleaned the bathroom for us. But it was it was bad.
That's not okay.
No, it's not okay. Yeah. Yeah. So, but yeah, people like that, this would be perfect for, because we'll definitely have some accountability.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have anybody that comes in that has like a standing date that they use that?
We do. We have a couple groups, a few groups. We have a 4-H club and some 4-H meetings that are standing every month. Outside of 4-H, we have Garda Club that meets every Saturday, first Saturday of the month throughout the year. Ambulance, their group, EMTs meet once a month. Those are probably the regular monthly meetings. There's a few that are a little more seasonal that we'll have use it. But those are the main standing ones I can think of. If I'm forgetting anyone.
So how are you gonna handle the deposit with those people?
We haven't totally thought through it. I do feel that they probably need a deposit. Most of them we don't have a problem with because they do use it every month. But even if it's just an annual deposit, something like that.
So if you run that as an annual deposit and then make sure that if you've got something that has to get cleaned up, they get billed for that, and then that deposit has to be maintained at $50.
Yeah, we could do something like that. Yep. Yeah, and then at the end of the year, we can reevaluate. We'll have them redo the application
Yeah.
and either keep the deposit or if they want to write us a new check. We'd have to. I think we could. Since there's not very many, I think we could work with those individuals, those organizations to do that. Yeah.
That's all I have.
Any other questions from Allison then? Yes, that's it. Thank you for
Well,
getting back on this.
I'll move that we approve this application form with a checklist pending, and also that we split the fee of $15 $10 to utilities, $5 to the extension office.
I'll second the motion.
Moving second to go ahead with this application as just stated. Any discussion? No more discussion, go to a vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Okay, I think that's all I have for tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Allison, do you get to sit in on the interview with the intern, or do they just assign you one?
I do, yeah. They sent out the applications last week, so I could kind of look at those. And so since there's 6 locations in the state and 1 application, the applicants rank their preferences, and then they all get interviewed on the same day. So they have one person from every county, and since I'm the only agent, I guess that's me here. And so I get to go and participate on the interviews, and I'm not sure, since this is my first year, how it all will sort out. Maybe I get to rank probably my preferences as well, I would imagine, and then they kind of get placed through that way. So yes. Yep. Yep, and what's nice is even though it's a summer internship for next year, obviously I'll know fairly soon, and so I can kind of work with that individual to kind of start to line up projects and see what his or her interests might be and whatnot. So nice to plan.
Sounds good, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, I'll keep you posted.
Please.
Yeah. Okay, a few minutes past. WC Engineering, we opened the bids on the Wilson project. Open them. First one is from BSE. There's the cashier's check, this would be for the bid. Okay. Another check. Evidently, instead of posting a bond, they just made out a check for each. Let's see what the bid is here, so I'm kind of under, that looks like it, doesn't it?
Both for the same amount.
Yeah. Okay. Number 1.
What was the total on that? Are you still on the first one there, Franklin?
That's when I'm there, I just come upon it now. First bid is $20,278. Second one is $17,655.
Is that, what company is that one?
This is BSE.
Both of them, okay?
Let's do cashier checks for it back here with this.
Yeah, all of them will have to look at to WWC to make sure all the paperwork's in order.
Mm-hmm.
Right, they'll review all the bids. Okay. assume it's Weave Consulting, I don't see their name on the first cover. Okay, the first bid is $22,557. It looks like 58 cents.
What's the name of this outfit?
Weave, on the envelope says Weave, but I haven't found their name on anything else here yet. Weave Consulting Incorporated. They're out of Billings. Now, do they have another? Okay, now they have a second one here for $19,575.04. So they're bid on. How close that first figure can get written down is
22,557.
22,000, okay. 557, okay. And the second was 19,
575.04.
pretty close. This apparently is JAG Grading and Paving, Elberton, Montana. The complete address here, they got Petty Creek Road, Elberton, Montana. I just have the one bid, looks like. Okay, and it is $49,905.
Say 49 or 29?
49.
Franklin, would you repeat the name of that company, please?
Yes, let's see if I can do it. Come on, take it. JAG Grading and Paving, 2246 Petty Creek Road, Alberton, Montana.
So you just read one total, what's the second one, or is that
Yeah,
everything
just
together?
the one.
Okay,
Did they lump both of them together then?
so it looks like,
No, I think it's it, right? There's gonna be no delta. Just got not available. Yeah, really one, so that's why they just go with the
Okay.
one.
so are they not offering the second service, or did they indeed add the two together, Franklin?
Oh, wait a minute, let me see down here, there is another one. Okay, there is. They got 29,000 written here, but up here it shows $39,111.
So they got two bids then? They got
Yeah,
one for
there was-
49 and,
Yeah, one for, see there it says shows 39, but here's, they got it spelled out 29.
So would you repeat that second amount, please?
I don't know which one we go for sure. Up here they showed 39,111, but when they wrote it out, they wrote $29,111.
Up above that where it has the numbers, it looks like they have a total at the bottom, that would probably be the number that's correct.
This is 39,111. At this point, BSU is every seal will go through these. And there. Determine just journal entry review process and decision, and then from there we go on to approve the August and September journal entries. Anybody have,
Well, 2 weeks ago, we were supposed to adjust the journal entries and they had been lost. It turns out were in our mailbox with the September adjusted journal entries. When I pulled out the August journal entries after the meeting, there were only 4, which is a really small number. So, I did talk to Debbie and Doug and asked them, first of all, how many there were. There's several that were, I got second copies from Doug because they were not in our mailbox. So they somehow got lost, just like the big package did. In our agenda, it has said multiple times that we're going to adjust the journal entries and make a decision on that. I think it's important, one, to understand what this process is and why we do it. So I asked Debbie and Doug to talk to us about, should the commission be adjusting your journal entries, or is our job to approve what's already been adjusted? And two is, why is it important? Why does the auditor tell us that we need to do this? Why is it important that this commission be looking at the adjusted journal entries? And then three, we need a process, because Elaine worked for years in your office, as you well know, Doug. She understood the adjusted journal entries. I've got almost 10 years' experience learning about them and still have some questions that I take to these guys. But Mike, you're new, and there has been really, other than any conversations you and Franklin have had, I don't think there's been any explanation other than last week and changing the agenda to reflect the correct verbiage as to what they are and why they're done. So that is why those are on the agenda, and I think it's probably one of the most important things that we do, because what was discussed last week, and I think you guys will probably repeat this, but the best way to keep fraud from happening is for anybody who might be tempted to know that there's eyes on what's being done. If anybody who is tempted knows that we're not even bringing them down to the meeting, we're losing them and don't even know that they're lost, until, of course, all of them are lost, it just opens a door that we don't want to have anybody ever walk through, for their own sake and for the county's.
Okay, I'll answer on a bunch of this. You know what it is, it's the second check is what it is on the journal entries, like you told me years ago and stuff. When I set that up, I was gonna have the journal entries 2 weeks ago for the August ones. And I went and I paper clipped each one separate. October, September, and August ones. Because you know, some come in later, so usually always we're a couple of months behind before we approve the entries, because they'll kind of come in slowly. Lately, I've just been leaving up there in the box. Before I was bringing them down and putting them in the basket down here in the commissioner room and the table there, but I've been just leaving up there. And before that last meeting, I went through and checked. In August, everything was there. I come to the meeting when I got it, and August was missing. I went back up and I went through it about 3 times. And that's why I reported the meeting. I don't know where they're at. They're not there. I went back that afternoon again and went through everything again, just thinking some stuck here, whatever. And where they're, and I come back on a, I can't say what day of the week it is now, day or 2 later anyway. And I remember I made the remark to Michelle, oh, the August journal entries are here now. So where they were, I don't know. I have my own ideas, but anyway, that's, and go on, and if you want to explain the double standard or the, what's the word you use?
Checks and balances.
Checks and balances, there you go.
I know for my office that most of the journal entries that you get from me are treasurer's disbursements, they're checks that I write. And so, and they all, of course, affect the cash for whatever fund they're coming out of, whether it's sheriff's office or you know, whoever I'm writing the checks for. They usually come out of, when they come from my office, they're usually out of either a refund account or over-insured account or something of that nature. But all of my treasurer's checks should be numbered consecutively. There shouldn't be any missed numbers. If there are, I know I had one check I had to void to send a copy of the blank check for the airport, new airport fuel company. But other than that, my treasurer's check should be consecutive, and if any are missing, then that would put up a red flag, I would think, on somebody else's part. Where did this check go, and what was it for, and so forth. I think if somebody was thinking about it's gone in money, that would probably be the first place they would go, is to write a check and put some kind of a fictitious fund or name or whatever on there, and try and hide it that way. So that's one reason that they're important, but each journal and each treasurer's disbursement touches cash, so it's important to see what fund it's coming out of, where it's going to. You know, if you guys issue a refund on taxes for somebody and expect it to be $200 and the check goes out for $4,000, and then you know something's up. It's just a good way to double check my office. The adjusted journals, I think Debbie works with those a lot more closely than I do. And I would think that probably the most important part of that would be to make sure that they're coming out of the right fund and going back into the right fund, so we're not taking sheriff's department money and putting it into road or vice versa or something like that. It's important to check those account numbers and make sure that journal is doing what we say it's doing.
When I do journals, mine are on the back end after claims have already been paid. And they come around from, we're looking at things, we found errors. Somebody, when they put in a claim, put the wrong account down. Michelle didn't catch it, they didn't catch it. I'm looking at stuff, doing a review, looking at reports, and went, oh, this is the wrong account, that should have gone to another one. So then I do a journal to take and credit back who it should have been charged to and who it was charged to in error. So those are generally the journals I'm doing, is looking for those errors. The only other time I would do a journal is if we've gone through the budget amendment process and I'm having to transfer money from, or give money authority, spending authority, based on additional revenues, changes in grants approved and authorized, so there's more expenditure authority. So I am doing journals based on those amendments to those accounts and to those funds. And it's just another internal control, checks and balance step that we have to do. You guys are expected to do to make sure if there's questions, you're looking at my work and making sure, I thought it was supposed to go to the sheriff's fund, why is it going to maintenance? So it's just another checks and balance. So if it looks like there's questions or why so much, I don't remember this, I could have put the wrong explanation in there, it doesn't make sense. To keep an eye on things, so it's not just one person, it's all of us working together to make sure things are done right. And that I'm not trying to take off somewhere, create some fictitious fund and getting a separate paycheck and nobody knows about it. Or putting in a claim to myself, and I'm Steve Miller. Steve Miller doesn't exist, but I'm taking the money. It's just it's a fraud security, internal control for all of us. That's why we do them. And that's where when you're the auditors wanted the commissioners to look at them and challenged you guys to look at them and review them. So if there was another set of eyes on them to check up on the rest of us. Kind of a pyramid effect, we start at the bottom, work our way up. By the time you guys get it, hopefully any mistakes or problems have been identified before they're out of control. Should they never get there, but that's the intent. So anytime we come across those, we put copies in boxes to those that are affected. I give a copy to Doug, because it affects cash. And then you guys get a copy to review everything. And then whoever's fund or account was touched, so that they're aware that I did a change to their account and who else was affected by it. So if I had to take money from sheriff to maintenance, for some reason repay some money he lent them, it should have gone charged to the maintenance fund, not the sheriff's fund. They're both aware I did that journal and can make sure it's on the up and up, or that they were aware of it, or, oh, there's a mistake, okay, I'll make note, because Wynn's trying to keep track of individual line items, he can make that adjustment on his side as well. Or Mike, oh yeah, Wynn's paying for that, I got my money back, put it in my fund, we're all good. Just one little example of what happens a lot, especially through claims. Payroll, I will do a journal through payroll when people have quit. I have an account in my fund that anybody, when they quit, their accruals are paid out. It's initially charged to whatever department they work for. They'll say it's district court. Janae would quit, she's got some accruals, by law we have to pay her what she's entitled on those accruals. Then I take a journal from my account that I have set aside for employee benefits to replace and refund district court. So it's not a hit on those various funds, because I've set aside money as the finance officer in my account to cover those liabilities. And those are the other Senate journals you'll see, which affect payroll. Letting you know that we made that change, somebody quit, this was their payout, here's the effect to our budgets in cash. Just another checks and balance. Because then if you know somebody quit and you don't see a journal, then that's to say, hey, did you get it done? Forgot it, put the wrong person. Just to keep us in line. Make sure we're doing it right. We're all on the same page. Because if I do something, I don't want to affect his cash, because that's part of balancing for him, so we need to make sure, so that if he's off, he's got an idea, oh, maybe it was a journal Debbie did, I think I saw that, and he can go look, and oh, there it is, I know where I'm off.
I know on my journals, I always try and put a backup information to tell you what it's for. Like, I think it was in October, I did a journal to balance out 6 months worth of funds that were from transferring over to Black Mountain, and certain months were off balance one way to the positive, certain months were off to the negative. And when we did our year-end journal, when Debbie did her year-end journal with the auditors, that all stopped. We started balancing to a zero amount. And those other amounts have been looked at by several different people, several different times, and just unable to find out where that offage was. So I wrote off, I think it was $1,752. And my backup information shows which months were positive, which ones were negative, just to try and show that there was no wrongdoing or walking out the door with money. It was just accounts that were either put in wrong in Black Mountain and had to be adjusted, or whatever the problem was, it fixed itself at the end of the year. And so we just had to clear up those amounts that we were carrying each month, hoping it would straighten out on its own. So whatever journal that we did at the end of the year cleared all that up, and we just had to make our cash balance match what was on the books. But each journal I do, I know most of when I write a treasurer's check, I print anywhere from 4 to 6 copies of each check that I write. I get a copy, Melissa gets a copy, I give Bev a copy, I put a copy in the back where we keep a copy of each check I write. I mean, it's just, if nobody's looking at 4 different copies, why am I making them? It just gets kind of redundant after a while.
That's probably why some months there's more than others. Hold on to them for a while and do several at a time, than just 1 or 2 here and there. It's easier to do a bunch and track them. Oh, I did all this in July, and instead of I did 1 here and 2 there and 5 there. So sometimes it's easier. Depends on how big it is, try to do it that same month if it affects payroll. But it can wait.
One other thing, you should all have access to the accounting module in Black Mountain. You can go in there and look under journals or look under treasurer's disbursements and see how many were done. And if you come to October or August and you only have 4 and there were 8 done, question us and see where they went. And if if we're not giving them to you, call us on the carpet for it. If that's one way to find out where the county's money's going. If you don't have the journal for it, that's a red flag that something might be going on. There should be a journal for every check I write and every adjusting journal we do.
And our role in that is to give the checks and balance, give the approval, but not adjust.
Right, the adjusting is done by either Debbie or I, but, yeah, just approving the journal entries is probably what it should say.
Yeah.
I know, in the past, we went as far as to have an Excel spreadsheet that showed all of the journals and amounts. I think we could probably, I don't think we have to go back to that, but if you wanted a report of journal entries and treasurer's disbursements that have been done for that month, it'd be pretty easy to print out a report.
And like you said, we have access already to it on Black Mountain, it's just a matter of us doing our job to look that up. Prior to seeing it on the agenda, I would think, then we would know what happened and see it in black and white. We haven't been even having the journals come into these meetings. It's just been, well, we know there's been some. On Faith, we know that the 3 of us each reviewed them and asked our questions. But I don't believe that that's an adequate double check. So that's why I'm asking for a process that the 3 of us can agree on and that we follow on a monthly basis. Like Doug said, we used to have an Excel sheet that had everything listed on it, Mike.
Yeah, Natalie used to bring that in always.
And we used to have, it kind of was dictated by the chair. Elaine and I would bring the adjusted journal entries to the meeting and we would look at them there. With Nick, we actually started just more initialing them and then approving them in bulk in a meeting. So what we've been doing this last year is really, I don't believe any of them have been signed. There's been no process. We need to define how we're going through that so that you guys know and so that the 3 of us are on the same board and so that they are getting reviewed. When the auditor asks us, I don't believe we can honestly say, yes, we've been doing this part of our job. So that's, I think, our next step, unless there's more explanation.
Yeah, even if it's just printing off the report and checking each of them off and then initialing it, it could be something, that might simplify it.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea.
It's not a fun part of your job, but it's pretty necessary. We don't want to end up like some of the other counties that have people walking off with $200,000, $400,000 or more. And
You guys remember what a mess it was for Ravalli County when they had, I forget her name now, but she was all over YouTube and Facebook. I tell you what, I would rather spend half an hour, one Monday a month, making sure that we are reviewing those in a process than I would to be one of the commissioners that had to deal with that mess over a period of, 6 or 9 months? It was a long time. She was finally found guilty. I don't know what happened to her, but I tell you what, a pound of prevention is worth a ton of pure in this case. So Mike, what's your thinking?
Well, I think I'd like to see that spreadsheet, but I'd also like to see us sign those. Either whether we leave them up there or we bring them down here and put them in the basket. Cause I think the problem with them is they get juggled with the mail, and the other part is the other mail gets juggled with them. But
Exactly.
today I dumped out like 4 envelopes out of a pile of claims, the other one just got shoved in.
Mhm.
You know, you better keep them in the basket down here rather than up there then.
So, how is that when they come in? Are you as chairman going to bring them to the basket? And at that point, what will happen with them? I want to process so
I'll do
that
the
we
same as I did before,
understand.
like when they come in, I clip them in August, everything, that's August, I put it under this one clip. September's another one, October's there. And, but I've always just left, lately I just been leaving them up there, I can bring them back and put them in the basket in here.
Okay, so you're gonna be bringing them down as they come in and putting them in a basket that will be on the main desk we all three share?
Same where it was for months, that's what I was doing, I was just leaving it there, then I just start leaving them up there.
So are the three of us each going to initial them as they come in so that we can prove we went through them? Or what is that process going to look like? Mike, do you have a preference?
No, I think we just initial them, everybody be covered,
As they come in,
you know?
okay? And then approve them once a month officially, so that there's a record.
With that sheet, so we can clip that sheet with them, so we know how many claims there are and where they're for. And then we'll have all kinds of backup around them, so everybody knows how many there are, and if somebody didn't initial them, then it should be noted that they didn't initial it.
All right, are we missing anything from you guys' perspective in our process? All right, well, it should be a whole lot better. I probably shouldn't have to
So,
come back to you and say we're.
When would you make up this, after they're all in the spreadsheet?
It's in Black Mountain, Franklin. They're not gonna make it up. We're going to download it and print it.
I thought he was gonna do like it was before, so that it'd be right with this here then.
No, he said he didn't think we needed to go to that extent. I agree with him. We have Black Mountain now. We can actually get that ourselves, and we should be watching the budget on Black Mountain multiple times per month anyway. So hitting print is easy for us. We don't need somebody to take time to rebuild what Natalie used to do. That was hours and hours of work because we didn't have Black Mountain. We now have a computer program that already does it. We just need to use that tool, and I think Doug's idea of bringing it to a meeting so that we have a master sheet for all the journal entries is a very good one. But Doug doesn't need to put that together, neither does Debbie. We just need to print it.
Yeah, I think if you just printed those reports, print a treasurer's disbursement and a JV report, that would give you all of them, and all the journal entries should be done in consecutive order as well.
Should be, come audit time, closing year-end time, they can get out of sync because we're working in 2 different fiscal years, so they could be having me, but usually I have backup data from the auditors I attach, so that as I do my journals, I've got their request attached to that, so you can kind of see why I did my journal was at their request. And what year it might have hit, what month.
But really from our end, that should take an extra 10 minutes just to find it
It'd be
in the
just a different
list.
report and back and forth, and if you can look at if you've got the actual journal, it should have it at the top of the month it's in, so then you know which year report to look at. And it'll cover all the payroll journals, which I don't give you copies of, because the payroll journals could be, they're 25 pages, but I can. Those are automatic in the system, so I don't generally give those, and they're identified as a PR payroll journal. The JVs are the manual ones that we do. I think those are probably more the ones there's concern for
Sure,
than the ones the system does that we don't touch.
yeah.
But the journal voucher listing would print them all out, so if there is a question,
No.
I think, I don't think there's any others other than those that we touch. Otherwise, you're gonna get a stack of paper like this. between
Which-
the two of us every month, if
Yeah.
we give you all the automatic ones that are done too, which we can if there's a question. I just think if they're automatic, you don't want,
I don't think
Every
we
month.
need those ones, I think we should, we're having enough trouble with the 8 from August
well,
at this
like the claims that
point.
Michelle and I do, you get a claims list to identify those, so if there's one on there that you got a question, then we can pull those specifics
Right,
instead of reinventing the wheel.
and since Mike and I are initialing those claims anyway, I know I asked Michelle, I would hope you're asking Michelle questions as they come up
Yeah,
on those, so that, I don't think we need a printout of that either. Probably just those, the ones you guys are giving us now. And the automatic ones we should be looking at online when we do our budget reviewing anyway.
Just wanna make sure,
Yeah,
what
no,
we need to do, what you're expecting.
right, I just wanna make sure we're not missing something with this new idea of a
Not on my
process.
side.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we definitely need to try something because this has been broken since January and I think it's one of the more important things that we do. So if we can go ahead and start that, that would be, I think, a good step in the right direction.
If it would help to keep the folder, the journals in a different basket, we could even put a basket in Debbie's office or my office and just put all of our journals there. That would be the only thing in that basket.
I would like to request that, and I'll tell you why. We have had a serious problem with missing mail, with losing mail. That's why I took the check out and took it directly to Doug, as I did not want a chance that we'd have a $1,700 check get lost with the rest of our mail. So I would, yes, please, can we have a basket in your office so that it's protected from getting lost, where we can just come and review those and initial them, and then the chairman can get the master sheet, bring it down when it's on the agenda, and that way there's less way for those to get lost, and we don't have to have you reprint what you've already given us before.
Yeah, that would work.
Does that work for you
works
guys?
for me.
Okay, I feel really good about that. I feel much more comfortable with that idea than bringing it down to our office, because they'll get lost down the stairs.
Yeah, a lot of paperwork starts looking the same and pretty soon you don't know what is that a journal or is it a report or,
Yeah, or is this just junk and I don't know what it is and I'm gonna throw it away? I think there's been some examples of that with, in the past year. Cool. Well, like
Let
with
me know where
anything.
it's at and I'll find it.
What's that?
You just gotta show me where it's at and I'll make sure it gets there.
we'll set one up.
Thank you, I appreciate that. And with anything, you know, this may take some tweaking, but I think we've made some good decisions on how to make sure that we do this responsibly moving ahead. Unless you guys have anything else to add. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Go back to work tomorrow.
So now we're approving the August, September journal entries.
I will ask that we postpone this till next week. One is, we don't know that we have all of them. I do know that I got the ones that had been lost from Doug for August, but I did not do that for September, because I was hoping to have a process, and I would like to start this process with these journals for August and September.
I'll agree with that.
This is not one that we probably need to wait until noon for, it's just a discussion.
This is federal proposed elimination of state and local tax deductions, SALT, SALT.
So on this, we got a bunch of information on this from the National Association of Counties and the Montana Association of Counties, and what the proposal is. I understand the Contractors Association is gonna come out hard against this. It will actually end up being a tax increase for your low and middle income homeowners, because they will lose that deduction. Right now, people who have a home and they have interest that they're paying on that home loan are able to write off that interest in their federal taxes. This will get rid of that tax deduction. That's what it is. I would imagine the contractors, you might know more on this, Mike. I won't speak to them if you have anything more to add.
Well, the thing is that if you're finally getting everything going to where people are building, now you're gonna take this away. The amount that I looked up on her from what they had for Broadwater County was $1,437 per taxpayer. That's how much the increase was. Because you don't get that deduction, plus you also don't get to deduct any state or local taxes you pay, so that means your property taxes are getting taxed twice, and your money for your state taxes is getting taxed twice. So these people, you know, if you got young people building a house, that's basically 2 months' house payments. And they're not, you know, that's the reason why you get the loan. You get to deduct the interest, now you don't get to do that. And I don't know if that was, it seems to me that a part of that was taken out last week of the Senate bill, but the House is still keeping it. So whatever they negotiate out of that, it sounds like they're gonna get enough pressure not to do it, but still, that doesn't mean they're not gonna do it. So that's what it's gonna end up costing those people, you know, $1,400 a year increase in your taxes is what they're gonna do. And I don't, you know, like the Contractors Association coming, I don't know where the counties in this time, I'm assuming that the state would come in against that. I would think they would.
State doesn't usually come out in support or against federal issues like this. Counties do, because we have an association. I think the Governor's Association probably does, but I don't recall the state necessarily, unless that's to oppose legally some kind of an action. There's a legal reason you can't do this. This is just policy, so I'm not sure that the state, with that, we can rely on the state.
No.
NACO for sure, NACO for sure.
Is MACO and NACO both in on this?
Yep, they were asking for counties to weigh in on this, and so I was wondering, do we wanna draft a letter and send it to Senators Dane and Tester and Representative Gianforte about what this would mean to our taxpayers?
Yeah, I think we do, because the thing, not only is this gonna hurt our taxpayers, but we finally got some building going here, so they're gonna shut that down, so that's gonna hammer our economy, and then you got the sawmill out there, and they're gonna get hammered, because everything is gonna get slowed back to a halt.
Yeah.
And it's not just because they're doing away with the deduction for your houses, but it's also the deduction for your state and local taxes.
Right.
So they're gonna hit us 2 ways at least.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, the thing with the mill is that if building doesn't go, the mill doesn't go, because all they do is sell studs.
Right.
It's not like they can build sheds and stuff, it's just studs, and that's what they sell.
And then you go back to the mill is necessary for forest health, because if there are no loggers, if there are no mills, the loggers have no place to take their commodity. If there's no loggers, then there's no ability to have a safe forest, because we can't rely on forest fires.
Yeah.
So, I have a pretty busy week this week, but do we want to maybe draft a letter and then each add to it?
Yeah,
Okay,
if you would draft the rough, I'll add to it, because you don't want
Okay.
me to draft the rough, because it'll be real rough.
okay. Deal. All right, I'll get a rough done as soon as I can, and then you'll get it via email,
Okay.
and then that way we can track our changes. So the other issue that kind of goes along with this is the whole, for Broadwater County, I'm trying to get some more details on this. It's gonna be a discussion on Thursday at the Social Services Committee meeting. We got an invitation. Agency on Aging is willing to come to town on this, but Medicaid, Blue Cross Blue Shield used to offer Medicaid at $69 for a supplemental for our folks. They are pulling out of all but 9 of the cities, the larger counties in Montana, and leaving the smaller communities to either have nothing or to go with Humana.
It's close to nothing.
Right, it's double if not triple the cost for supplemental. They are notorious for not paying their bills. We do not have any providers in Broadwater County that are members of Humana. That means if your supplemental is with Humana, you have got to go out of town. And with the roads as they are right now or this weekend, that can be a serious problem for our folks.
And from my conversation with one individual that's involved with that, the only place you can go is Helena. Bozeman won't cover Humana.
Really?
That's what he says, there's very few providers down there will take Humana. So you're basically limited to going to Helena.
Wow. So Blue Cross Blue Shield will stay in Bozeman because they're one of the cities, so their folks are covered. But for our folks, they now have got to change their doctoring if they're going to Bozeman, or their specialists if they're going to Bozeman for Helena.
I believe that's, I'm pretty sure that's what he says, there was very few people in Bozeman that'll take Humana.
That's a big deal. I don't know that the Commissioner on Insurances has weighed in on this. And in my opinion, every single county that's affected should be sending them multiple letters.
Is that Stapleton?
It's Rosendale, and he wants to run for higher office.
He was the one that was praising Blue Cross Blue Shield not for raising their rates, because they didn't raise their rates because they cut all their people.
Right.
Yeah, he weighed in.
Yeah. He hasn't weighed in a way that is constructive for Montana citizens. How about that for a rephrase
Yeah.
of the comment? I think he's already put his hat in for Gianforte's seat. But I think he needs to get at least a letter from Broadwater County Commissioners on this.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, I don't know what good it's gonna do with him, but it seems to me that they didn't do anybody any favors.
No. I'll get working on a draft of that as well. And then look to you guys to add some flavor to it. Our meeting on Wednesday, if you look through the report that we got on the areas that are going to be negatively affected by the actions of our legislators, one is Medicaid, Medicare. They're slashing that. Not necessarily money for the program, but people to work it. So people who have Medicaid or Medicare are going to have very few resources to go to with questions, with getting their supplementals, with any issues that they have. Now you're talking about public health, our community doctors, dentists, mental health, children's services, elderly services, agency on aging, senior dinner club, hospital, clinic, all of it. So I would like to invite those folks to our meeting on Wednesday that are affected there. It also affects the clerk and recorder's offices. Merlin's on the list for cuts. Motor vehicle is on the list. Elections is on the list. Our detention centers and law enforcement. Cost partners with detention centers are on the list of cuts. Victim services, an awful lot with Department of Justice involving the county attorneys. Community service, juvenile detention, there's your JP's office. DEQ and permitting, they're looking